victims from the floods through Kerr County has significantly dropped, with 3 individuals remaining unaccounted for. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with Ed Hers, energy economist and fellow at the University of Houston. We'll break down how the One Big Beautiful Bill could reshape the future of clean energy, fossil fuels, and the billions of dollars flowing through both.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also speak with Juan Garcia, the chairman of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, who will discuss Houston hosting this week's AAU Junior Olympic Games, the largest youth multi-sport event in the United States.
As Ernie, Celeste, and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, questions, concerns. Give us a call or text us 713-440-8870 or email us talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Israel has begun a new ground operation in central Gaza that it has largely avoided in the war so far. And the growing desperation among Palestinians scrambling to get to food and other life-saving supplies has resulted in another deadly encounter. Local health officials say more than 100 Palestinians were killed by the Israeli military as they tried to get food yesterday. NPR's Hadil Al-Shalchi has the latest.
The Israeli military issued new evacuation orders for Palestinians to leave parts of Deir al-Balah in central Gaza. This is an area that Israeli troops have avoided for fear of endangering hostages who are believed to be held there. This comes as UN officials said Israeli tanks and snipers fired at Palestinians in northern Gaza as they gathered around a border fence with Israel to try to get food from a UN World Food Program aid convoy. The Israeli military said they posed a threat to troops. This on the same day that the U.S.-based World Central Kitchen charity said it ran out of ingredients to cook warm meals in Gaza. The UN says that the territory remains at critical risk of famine. Hadil Al-Shalchi, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Cybersecurity experts in government and in the private sector are warning of a newly discovered digital vulnerability already being exploited by hackers around the world. It's affecting a piece of Microsoft software. More from NPR's Jenna McLaughlin.
The Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has released a new alert warning about a flaw in Microsoft SharePoint. The problem exists on a version of the collaboration tool that clients install locally rather than connect to online. If hackers break in using this flaw, they could access everything hosted on the platform, including secret cryptographic keys, and essentially take control, according to CISA. Microsoft says it continues to work on and release patches to secure the software. Experts are still trying to identify the scope and scale of digital attacks using this new technique. However, several cybersecurity companies say it's already affecting governments and corporations around the globe. Jenna McLaughlin, NPR News.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem visited the Customs and Border Protection officer who was injured in a shooting in New York City over the weekend in an attempted robbery. She says a second person's also in custody in connection with the shooting.
We were able to bring the second individual in and have detained him as well, and he will face consequences and hopefully strong prosecution for his crimes and his involvement on Saturday night.
The DHS says the first suspect arrested is a citizen of the Dominican Republic who entered the U.S. illegally in 2023 and was released. Noem says he was arrested multiple times in the city and appeared to partly blame what happened over the weekend on the city's sanctuary policies. It's NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Texas lawmakers returned to the state capitol today for the start of the special session. News 88.7 government reporter Andrew Schneider says congressional redistricting is set to dominate the agenda.
Governor Greg Abbott put redistricting on the special session call following a letter from the U.S. Justice Department naming 4 Democratic districts as, quote, unconstitutional racial gerrymanders. Houston Democratic Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher says it's Abbott and President Donald Trump who want to push racial gerrymanders through.
Every single congressional district in Texas that is held by a Democrat represents the candidate of choice of minority voters across our state. So an effort to eliminate any of them is an effort to dilute the voices of Texas voters and in minority communities in particular.
Trump has told Texas Republican members of Congress he wants to pick up 5 seats in the mid-decade round of redistricting. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
The City of Houston's Planning Department has issued waivers for sidewalk construction to about 230 single-family projects since September, according to records obtained by Houston Public Media. That's when Mayor John Whitmire told the department to use discretion in enforcing sidewalk construction requirements. The 230 waivers include projects that would have resulted in so-called sidewalks to nowhere, according to the Planning Department. Mobility advocate Kevin Strickland is co-founder of Walk and Roll Houston.
These aren't sidewalks to nowhere, they're sidewalks to somewhere. You don't add by subtracting, meaning we don't get more sidewalks by issuing waivers for people not to have sidewalks just because it might be the only sidewalk on their block.
The Planning Department says it will propose new sidewalk rules in August. And a wildfire that burned for days on Bolivar Peninsula this weekend has now been extinguished. The Port Bolivar Volunteer Fire Department said on social media this morning that a fire that started Friday in a bird sanctuary burned nearly 250 acres before it was able to be put out this morning. Authorities believe the fire started from a lightning strike. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance, working to help protect small businesses and the owners that run them, offering customizable coverages to salons, accounting firms, tradespeople, and more. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Welcome to another week.
A full house of hosts.
Yes,
We're all
A
here.
full house.
A full
Welcome
house.
back, Ernie.
And a busy show to come back to, too. A lot going on out there. We're going to be taking a look at the energy industry here in Houston, how that big, beautiful bill is going to impact us. We have the Junior Olympics coming to Houston. We're going to find out what you need to know about that. Weather. There's a lot going on with weather, with new legislation. Randy Weber is going to be here, our representative. But whenever we think of weather, we always think of Frank Billingsley.
That's right.
Frank, what's going on out there? Is it going to be a good week?
You know, hot and dry with some maybe afternoon scattered thunderstorms through Thursday. And then there's this surge of moisture that wants to come across the Gulf. Remember the last one?
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone thought, well, maybe this will be Dexter, maybe not. This looks like it'll probably be the same thing, that the low associated with this will stay mostly over land and not really develop as a tropical system in the Gulf. But it'll bring moisture in our general direction by Friday, Saturday. For what it's worth, the National Hurricane Center hasn't highlighted this. You know, a lot of times they'll put a yellow box and say within the next 7 days there's a 20% chance. They've kind of ignored this, and I think the reason for now anyway is because they think that the low will stay over land.
Yeah.
But the moisture with it could get wet around here on Friday and Saturday. Until then, sort of more of what we saw over the weekend.
Yeah, can't we get the wet during the week so our weekends are nicer? Can you arrange that for us?
My plants have been loving the wet, though. It's been nice in that regard. Because, you know, it seems like as many times as I did summer weather in Texas, I would say it seemed like 80% of the time I was talking about drought.
Yeah.
Right.
Drought, hot, dry, 100 degrees day after day after day. I think the hottest we've had is 98 at Bush and 96 at Hobby.
And at some point in the state of Texas, don't we always at least have a little bit of a drought happening somewhere, or is that completely gone at this point? Frank?
No, we almost always do, especially out toward El Paso.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the hill country, but especially out in the desert areas.
Sure.
Yeah. And that's sort of determined by the people that live there. The farmers and ranchers actually have their input into the drought situation and say, look, this I'm seeing in my fields, this is a drought. And so the U.S. Drought Monitor takes that into consideration when they issue their drought monitor.
Yeah.
Well, Frank will keep an eye on all of that for us. Remember, if you have questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, give us a call or text us, 713-440-8870. You can always email us, talk@hellohouston.org. Or our favorite, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, look for the Houston Public Media channel. Find us there in the chat group there. There's always almost another show going on. People love to share their thoughts, and we kind of know you now.
And we already received a thought. My British computer guy said, I just wanted to say thank you for showing my dog Murphy on the stream Friday. My wife recently started watching the show and got a real kick out of seeing her pup. I think it made her day. And that's what we're here to do on Hello Houston, right? We're here to serve our community the best we can. And even our pups are a part of our community.
And
so
make
Murphy
our community
made it on Friday. That's right.
Well, things going on in the community. Of course, there's always the headlines. There's the news, and Celeste leads us off.
Thanks, Ernie. As you all have heard, since last week, Congress approved a rollback of $9 billion in previously allocated funds. The rescission package includes nearly $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB, which provides federal funding to PBS, NPR, and their member stations around the country, including Houston Public Media. As a result, our station, Houston Public Media, will lose $2.2 million annually, or nearly 10% of its annual operating budget for the next 2 years. As a result of the cuts, Houston Public Media has launched a $4.4 million resiliency fund campaign. And joining us now to discuss is Houston Public Media General Manager Josh Adams. Josh, good morning.
Good morning again, gang.
And if you have any questions for Josh, now is the time to give us a call at 713-440-8870. You can also text us or send us an email at talk@hellohouston.org.
Josh, we hear a lot in the news now, the last few days, about different representatives saying, we're moving for getting some budgeting restored for this, that, and the other. Is there any of that talk around the public broadcasting element of it, or because the Republican Party hung such a big placard on doing this and achieving this, that's not really being considered?
That's, outside my focus right now.
Yeah.
I think politics is politics. And there's a lot of that swirling around. The one thing I can say is if you are a voter and you have questions about how your elected officials feel about that, call their office, send them an email. We represent 19 or reach 19 counties. That's a lot of elected people, but more so it's a lot of the population we serve. And this is really about them. So I guess that would be my response to that question.
And that's the thing, right, is that what we understand is before we were saying protect our, public media, but now really, truly, it's restore public media.
Sure, we might need to tweak that marketing campaign. I mean, the reality is public media is still here. Right. This station is strong. This station is going to remain strong in this community. And now, just like last Thursday and the Thursday before that and going back months and months and months, we're here to serve the community. Mm-hmm. The difference is we're not going to have federal funding to help augment that. Mm-hmm.
Have you had your ear to the ground for other markets, smaller markets, and how they're being affected? Because the assumption is that some of those people with a staff of 5 are going to cut to 3 and may go away completely.
Yeah, Frank, that's a great point. We talked a little bit about this last week. Again, 10% for us, right? We're going to tighten our belt. We're going to make some tough decisions, and then we're going to really focus on this resiliency fund. And so I am very excited about where we're headed. This is a hard time for us, but we're also headed down a path that's going to be a leaner, tighter path to serving the community. In my conversations leading up to last Thursday, across the weekend, people reaching out, texting me, I've got colleagues to whom I've reached out to, and then folks who've called me and like, what are we going to do? I think you're right. I do think that in the days, weeks, and months ahead, we are going to hear stories about small markets, rural markets that are going to have to do everything from consolidate to, I think, maybe potentially go off the air, but more so look for really, really different business plans about how and if they're going to survive. We're in that mode right now.
I know it's a hard walk for the position you're in and for the station in general to talk about we're a strong organization. Yep. We're here for you and we're going to be here for you.
Yep.
But we're also needing to raise funds because of what we have lost.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to assume it is if anybody listening right now were to find out tomorrow they had a 10% decrease in their salary or in their savings or any of that, you can survive, but you need that. You've come to depend on it.
Yeah, we spend up to our limits, right? And we do that here just like everybody else does. And our spending includes buying content. It includes all the people that work here and all the shows we do. It includes all the infrastructure. It includes the money that we've put away for a rainy day. Well, it's storming right now, Frank, not to step on your toes.
Don't blame me.
This is a storm that we're in right now, but we've saved a little bit for that. But as everybody, back to your 10% of your own budget analogy, savings for a rainy day does not replace operating capital to move forward, right? Operating revenue. It's to help us get through, and that's what this resiliency fund is for. It is a bridge to what the new Houston public media is going to look, feel, and sound like.
Well, and I think you mentioned this on Friday. A public radio station can't just take on a commercial quality to make up for this.
Correct.
And I've had some people say, well, why don't y'all just sell a few commercials, try to make some money? And it goes back to our licensing, doesn't it?
Correct. We are an FCC educational station, right? That's got limitations on it. And it also has a lot of great attributes that come with it. We're able to use a reserved part of the spectrum. That's great. We're able to, because we are a nonprofit, our donors get tax value for what they give us. It's a tax write-off when you make a donation to us. There's some other things in there too. And probably the most overlooked of all of those is that we get the opportunity to inform, inspire, and educate the community. That's our mission, right? Our mission is not make more money for our shareholders. Right. Our mission is not squeeze it down to the bottom line. Our mission is let's think about what's impactful in Houston. Let's live up to that standard.
Yeah.
To your point, though, about commercial, we do have to have rigor around our finances. No money, no mission. I've heard that from day one here, and it's so true. So while I get to be in charge of an organization that enjoys this wonderful sort of mission work, I also feel it is my duty to have laser focus when it comes to our finances, our P&L, our operations, because all that money is money people gave us to invest in the community, and we have got to be as smart as a startup or a hedge fund or Apple or Google or name your company, ExxonMobil, as smart as all those folks when it comes to managing every dime, so we know we're spending those donor dollars correctly.
People hear you talk about that and hear theory and ideas and all that. The best practical way I can put it into perspective for an audience is think back to the pandemic. It was forward thinking that we as an organization had the facilities and the equipment and everything in place. Not that we knew a pandemic was coming, but as soon as it hit, we were able to continue broadcasting from home wherever we needed to because of the foresight of what was going to be needed next in our community. That's kind of what your money goes to support. It's thinking ahead, being ready so that you're never without a service you depend on. And we proved ourselves during the pandemic. We've proven ourselves during storms. We show it when other stations, commercial stations in our market, have to come on our airwaves to keep their message going out, or they need to use our studios because we have thought ahead and have planned.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, look, you pick your saying that grandma used to say. Hindsight's 20/20. Can't fly the plane backwards. Rear view mirrors behind us. We're headed forwards. We put that one astern. Whatever your thing is, when you invest in your organization and you invest in your organization's future, you put yourself in a position to succeed. We put ourselves in a position to succeed because we invested going into 2008. We came out of that doing okay. We put ourselves in a position to succeed and a pandemic hit. And yeah, to your point, lo and behold, everyone was able to go home with a laptop and we were able to broadcast from home with relatively little craziness.
Yeah.
That wasn't luck. That wasn't on accident. That was because a team of experts sat around and said, where do we want to be in a year? Back in 2019. Well, in a year, we want every employee to have the ability to be remote because we're a news organization. People need to be able to take their laptops and go be somewhere else. We never thought about a pandemic, but the reality was it worked. And that's what this is. That's what the Resiliency Fund is about. That's what this investment is about. We have invested in an organization that is positioned to be super strong in the future. We're going to keep charging down that road.
And the clawback also is the fact that it's money that was already allocated.
Yeah.
So they had allocated money. You folks, like we're not all in the same boat here, had planned budgets and projects and things to keep this a strong organization for a great community. Losing that money is different than hearing next year you won't have. This is we were told we had.
Yeah, that's a bitter pill to swallow. It really is. 2 years forward funding really was a sort of economically strategic way to be able to understand, okay, for the next 18 to 24 months, we've got time to plan for what 3 years, 4 years out looks like. And that's turned into 2 months. And so, but I'll be honest with you, I've spent the last 12 months thinking about this organization like this, and I've spent the last 6 of it really focused on where we want to be. This show, I've said it before, and people are going to be like, I said it again, but the reality is this show, Houston Matters, party politics, these are all examples of shows that are rooted in the community, that are telling local stories, right? And are doing it with new technology to meet people where they want to be met. On social media, on the internet, streamed, radio, TV. That's where we're headed. And so that's on what we need to focus, because that's the future. This budget stuff, that's just sort of a budgetary hiccup, and we're going to have to deal with it, and it's going to be tough. But the reality is that's got no bearing on our strategic future. We're in great shape.
The only change I would make in what you say is, instead of where we want to be, where we need to be for our community.
Yes. I want to be where we need to be. Yes. That's my mantra. So.
And you're listening to Hello Houston. We're speaking with Houston Public Media's General Manager Josh Adams. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. So moving forward, Josh, we've launched this resiliency fund. What can you tell us about it, and how will it help us get through some of these, tougher times?
Yeah, sort of think about it like a gap funding. Again, 2 years forward funding meant we always sort of operated with a plan that we knew what the next year's funding was going to look like. That went away so quickly, really sort of gave us a 5-6 week runway. So September 1 of this year is when it takes effect for us. That's when the effects are going to be felt. And we're going to have to be in position for that. So it's built to help us make good decisions. Right? Sometimes you got to make decisions like, well, we don't have any money. We got to make this decision. This is not that. We've got money. We don't have money forever, but we're going to make good decisions with it. We're going to make thoughtful decisions and strategic decisions. And most importantly, we're going to make these decisions about where we want to continue to go as an organization, sort of rooted in feedback from the community. We heard from the community across the last 2 years worth of audience surveys that people care about news that's going on in their specific community. And yeah, Houston can be your community, but what they're really talking about is Fort Bend County, Galveston County, Montgomery County, inside the Loop, Katy, Channelview. They want to know in their community, and that's going to be our focus continuing to move forward.
And if you want to help out, the easiest way, if you've been inspired by any of what you're hearing right now and want to get into the game, give us a call.
Get inspired. If you're not inspired, get inspired.
888-909-0887, and you can help us in our goal to reach the goal for the Resiliency Fund. We need to hear from you now, 888-909-0887.
And that's something that's so interesting when you talk about everybody wants to hear what's happening in their backyard, because truly that's how you make better informed decisions. And I'm always impressed with the amount of reach we have. 19 counties. I know you listed a couple of other ones, but what are some of the further ones? I know I was in El Campo, and I heard Houston Public Media.
So if you think about our antenna, it's at the top of a 2,000-foot tower. I think we're around 1,800, 1,700 feet. And it more or less is a circle, right? We have what's called an omnidirectional antenna. It means all right, so it's a big circle off the top of that. So that circle reaches, unfortunately, well out into the Gulf. A fifth of our signal goes out to the fish. All the way around, sort of east of the Ship Channel, up and around, up into Montgomery County. Like we got Conroe, maybe in the little north of Conroe. Back around out west, we've heard people in Columbus can kind of get us, and again, now you're starting to get into like the dynamics of frequency modulation. So like on a cloudy night, sometimes those signals can stay below the clouds and go a little further. I think my understanding is that on a crisp, clean, no cloud night, little maybe that circle shrinks down a little bit. But yeah, all are a portion of 19 counties that touch Harris County.
And on the internet, we're worldwide.
Worldwide on the internet.
And that's the thing, though, right? When you're supporting Houston Public Media, you're not just supporting Houston. You're supporting 19 counties, our community, our neighbors.
I'm still trying. Houston land. I think it will catch on. One
No,
of these days.
please.
I mean, look, here's to your
out.
point about
Done.
the internet. You know, we've had so many people respond to the Resiliency Fund who listen to our streams. Folks in North Carolina, folks in New York. We've had people from Chicago, people from California. And these are, I can imagine, either people that grew up with us and have moved, or people that, were from Houston, or came to Houston and then had to move because of business. And they still want to know what's going on here. They still want to be a part of it. And so we're as thankful for them as we are for anybody, because they're our supporters. They're our listeners, our donors.
And we're thankful for you in leading us through this. It's a rough way to start a tenure in a new job.
No, you're exactly right. But look, I knew exactly what I was getting into when I really advocated for this job. I worked hard, really hard to get this job. And I'm excited about the opportunity in front of us. I'm very bullish on public media. We are going to do great things for this community. It's because of the work you're doing, and it's because of our donors, the people who support us and want us to continue being great.
And I know I can get behind the fact that anybody that actually works here at Houston Public Media understands the mission, and we truly are wanting to serve our community.
888-909-0887 if you would like to join in and help support us as we move through this period. Josh Adams, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here anytime.
That's right. And coming up on Hello Houston, Ed Hurst, energy economist and fellow at the University of Houston, will break down how the One Big Beautiful Bill could reshape the future of clean energy, fossil fuels, and the billions of dollars flowing through both. This is News 88.7.
Energy to function. But as countries around the world put a renewed focus on energy supplies and security, it's affecting their geopolitics. Oil and gas producers are thinking twice about sparking conflict, and importers are focused on building up energy supply. Insight from the Aspen Ideas Festival on how global energy markets and world politics have become intertwined. Next time on 1A.
Elevate your impact with Houston Public Media. Today is New Member Monday. Now is the perfect moment to make a difference by becoming a new member. Your first donation supports trusted news, educational documentaries, and enriching arts on air. Join us in our mission to inform, educate, and inspire Houston. Visit houstonpublicmedia.org/donate and make your first contribution today. Together, let's shape a future filled with quality programming and community engagement. Thank you for being a vital part of Houston Public Media.
In colder parts of the country, summer is construction season, and construction is bad for business.
It seems like there's a huge sacrifice being asked of this city for the future of this city, and the small businesses are receiving the bill.
I'm Amy Scott, maintenance on Main Street, next time on Marketplace.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from attorney mediator Ron Bankston, providing in-person, video conferencing, and hybrid mediation and arbitration services. More information is available at ronbankston.com.
Support comes from Rottinghaus with Rolling Stone Presents Amplified, the immersive rock experience, highlighting the history of rock and roll and featuring over 300 artists whose music changed the world. Tickets at rottinghaus.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
The One Big Beautiful Bill could reshape the future of clean energy, fossil fuel, and the billions of dollars flowing through both. But what does it actually mean for the energy capital of the world, Houston? How could it affect jobs, investment, and the state's booming renewable sectors? To break down the real-world impacts of the bill and whether it's a boost or a blow to Texas' energy future, we're joined by Ed Hurst, energy economist and fellow at the University of Houston. Ed, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ernie.
Nice to see you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was
Ernie.
going to say, it seems in the intro we set it up. Is this good or bad for us?
Well, it's a detour. Not necessarily bad. The delays and the lagging for the implementation of the rollbacks on the incentives for wind and solar and batteries are certainly going to be felt in a couple of years' time, but not right now. The solar farms are the least expensive generation plants we can deploy, and we're deploying lots of them, especially around Texas. The great thing is when it's a hot day in Texas, the sun is out. And if we look at it just strictly on economics, natural gas has become more expensive, natural gas power plants. And so that's primarily because the average price of natural gas is up from $2 and change per 1,000 cubic feet up to over $4 and change this summer. And so that's driven electricity prices higher all across the nation. And President Trump campaigned on lower electricity prices, and that's just not going to happen. The coal power plants and natural gas power plants that he has now issued mandates to remain open, including several in Texas. The owners were going to close those because they're expensive to operate. They're old. The coal power plant infrastructure averages more than 55 years in age. They have a very high fuel cost. They have a very high cost of disposing of the ash. Everything about it. The natural gas fleet across the nation averages more than 30 years in age. And as we've seen here in Texas, the retail price, if you will, of recently constructed natural gas power plants is still less than 50 cents on the dollar, primarily because the owners know that they're not going to get return on investment from those, especially with the ERCOT market the way it is. And solar has just blossomed across the state. And so right now, solar is contributing probably 40% of our electricity at this minute.
We're talking a lot on our air about what happened with public media and funding being taken away and planning going a certain direction. I'm wondering if this is the same in the energy sector, that for the last so many years, the organizations, the companies were planning to go a different direction, seeing this growth in renewable energies and solar and all of this happening. So they had plans in effect that this bill then alters the direction they're going. And so they've got to be righting a ship too, I'm assuming.
Absolutely right. And so the developers for the solar farms, pretty well know their economics. And if they had plans to build one 4 years from now, 5 years from now, they're going to accelerate that as fast as they can. The solar farms in a market such as ERCOT or PJM or California can undercut anybody else. And so we've seen, for example, a 1.3 gigawatt solar farm being built north of Dallas. That's a $2 billion facility. It's going to have a total of 12 full-time employees, and half of whom probably going to be shepherds. And so the South Texas project, just down Alameda Road, is two 1.3 gigawatt nuclear reactors. They have 1,100 full-time employees. Coal power plants somewhere in between, natural gas power plants, fewer employees, but more moving parts, and a cost of fuel. And eventually, as solar and wind and batteries build out across the grid, the economics are going to drive this just on the basis of the low marginal cost.
Speaking of employees, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, I have a couple of friends in the oil and gas industry, and those jobs are being threatened by all of this.
Oh, they've been threatened. The price of oil is down from $80 in January to low 60s today. The dollar, of course, has had its worst performance in 6 months, dating back to 1973. We're off over 10% against other currencies.
Why is that?
Well, we have a volatile leadership in Washington right now. Tariff wars.
So trust is an issue.
Well, it's a huge issue. Congress and the president have pushed through a deficit busting type of bill here. The one big beautiful bill is going to damage the economy more than it's going to hurt wind, solar, and help oil. The president has said he likes the oil price in the 60s. Well, he called the Saudis and asked for a lower oil price, and the Saudis are the ones who control it. Drill, baby, drill is not happening. We're down almost 3 dozen oil rigs over this time last year. The Dallas Federal Reserve Bank Energy Survey shows that most independents across Texas are not going to drill new wells unless they can see the price at $70 a barrel or higher for an extended period of time, and we're not going to get that.
Yeah, the pump's pretty good. The pain at the pump's not too serious right now.
Well, you can thank OPEC for that.
Right.
What I would imagine, though, if, we were talking about renewable energy incentives and they're being sunsetted, it would drive demand back to natural gas. And then if more people are buying gasoline-type cars instead of EVs because the EV credits are going away, couldn't this be, moving back towards more traditional oil and gas type structures?
I don't think so.
Okay.
There's a 5-year backlog right now for natural gas turbines, the element you need to drive natural gas power plants. The costs have gone up and doubling really since 2021, whereas if the state had acted to shore up ERCOT and its reliability back in 2021, we could have contracted for about 9 gigawatts of natural gas power plants for $10 billion. Those were the 2 offers we had on the table from investment groups, including Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway Group. Today, it's about $2 billion per gigawatt to build it if you can get in the queue for the gas turbine units. We've pushed automobile efficiency out to great levels, but one of the things that probably hurts automobile conversion, if you will, to EV is not just the range, but less expensive gasoline, less expensive diesel.
Mm-hmm.
If we had $8 a gallon, like they do in California, there would be a rush to in your 2-car family, have one of them at least electric, which is pretty easy. The math is going to work there. What we've heard out of China is that they've had a quantum leap in battery technology where they can charge to full range in less than 10 minutes. Their costs are down so low that the administration has levied a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. That's not going to hurt the Chinese. It's not going to diminish their market share across the world. They're going to sell these cheap vehicles across Africa, across Asia, across Europe. The U.S. is going to lose out on market share.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We're speaking with energy economist and fellow at the University of Houston, Ed Hurst. You can join the conversation at 713-440-8870. And we do have a call right now from Hugh from Montrose. Hugh, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question for Ed?
So, I'm an energy professional like most of us in Houston. And by the way, I love the show, and I've given my pro rata increase to public radio. I was very disappointed.
Thank you, Hugh.
But as an energy professional and been doing it for a long time, 35 plus years, I think when you're talking about the cost of solar, I agree. I've looked at a lot of different projects. The refrain or the rebuttal is you don't incorporate the cost for the backup. You're not incorporating the cost of the battery. You can mate daytime solar with nighttime wind, but maybe you can explain, the duck curve of when everybody comes in the evening and the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. You have to have the natural gas backup power, and frankly, batteries to accommodate that is just isn't realistic. So your comment saying that solar's cheaper really isn't true, and I think it feeds a lot of opposition to solar when you guys make statements like that. Anyway, I'll listen.
Yeah, thanks for your call. Let's see what Ed has to say about that.
No, Hugh, you're right. And I've talked about the overbuild that's required to go all renewable. And I'm not saying we're going all renewable. I'm talking about the marginal plants that are going to be built going forward. When a natural gas power plant can be bought in the ERCOT market for 50 cents on the dollar of what it costs new, that tells you what the value of that natural gas power plant is going forward. And in these RTOs and ISOs, where they try to get the low marginal cost bid to come in during that minute, that second even, that's going to be solar because there's no cost of fuel. But you're right. We need to build out the transmission lines. We can't build a solar farm in downtown Houston in order to replace a 1 gigawatt natural gas plant that may have 95% reliability or runtime. You're going to need at least 3 solar farms, and the sun's shining all day long. And if that's an 8-hour day, which is where I'm going to with a winter, and then you'll need 4 of the 4-hour battery packs to run during the night. And so, yeah, it's going to be a 7-to-1, 10-to-1 capital replacement. We're not there yet, and we're not going to get there anytime soon. But what we are seeing is that solar is taking greater and greater market share day by day by day in the ERCOT market because of the low marginal cost, the low bid coming in.
Quick question from Dark One on YouTube. As more renewable energy production comes online, won't natural gas prices decrease due to supply and demand?
No, because the natural gas market is, at this point, a global market for us. We're exporting a bunch of gas through the LNG facilities. We've got pipes down to Mexico. We've never really had that as the, at least since the advent of hydraulic fracturing, as the big driver for demand.
Let me give you a moment to wrap this all up for us. 5 years, 10 years from now, how is the energy system, energy environment looking in Houston?
With the low oil price that we're seeing, if we go through this for the next 4 years, maybe even extended, we're going to see a lot of bankruptcies and more consolidations in the oil industry. Natural gas is going to continue to be a tremendous fuel. It's cheap. It's going to stay that way. And we'll see more and more solar and batteries get to the ground. Remember, batteries can be charged by any resource.
Ed Hurst is an energy economist and fellow at the University of Houston. Ed, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
My pleasure.
Coming up, we'll talk about the Junior Olympics happening right here in Houston. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. We're coming to you today with an emergency fundraiser because federal funding for public media was cut. For Houston Public Media specifically, that means a $2.2 million loss to our annual budget. Our response is the launch of Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Please make your gift now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or pick up that phone, 888-909-0887. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Frank Billingsley.
We just heard from one of our listeners that he's made that pledge, so we want everybody to do that. We really appreciate it. Federal funding cuts for public media have reduced Houston Public Media's budget by $2.2 million, as Celeste said. That's 10% annually, and that's a big change. But we're taking action. The Resiliency Fund was launched to protect the programs and the services that you value, from NPR reporting to PBS dramas to local storytelling. It's quick and it's easy to give at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
And you hear us say it all the time. Your support powers public media. And it's true, but it's not just about keeping the lights on. It's about finding and funding fact-based local reporting and stories that matter. For example, Houston is the energy capital of the world. And so we understand that as we look towards new legislation, new policy moving forward, that is going to affect Houstonians right here in Houston. And that is why we had energy fellow Ed Hurst on minutes talking about the timeline 5 years from now. What is that going to look like?
And in just a few minutes, we're going to be talking to Congressman Randy Weber about his bill that's a bipartisan bill to really beef up weather forecasting and modeling and hopefully get a better handle on how much rain is going to fall. Can't wait to talk to him about
And that's
that.
going to be so interesting. And it's also happening right now. It's so topical. And you know what else is happening right now? You're going to make a gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Thousands of Houstonians make this service possible by being active supporters of this station. If you've never given before, now is the time to join them. Your first donation makes you a member and helps protect public media after the loss of critical federal support. HoustonPublicMedia.org/donate or 888-909-0887. Step up, make your gift, and help keep Houston informed.
That's right. Houston Public Media is built on thousands of listeners giving what they can. Often that's $5 or $10 a month. That steady support fuels everything we do. It pays for local journalists. It keeps the programs you trust on the air, and it ensures that independent public media stays free and accessible to everyone in our community. And that is what is so important. Houston Public Media is for everyone. So make your gift, whatever the amount. It has a real impact right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And our journalists are some of the hardest working out there.
They truly
really are terrific. And our website is a nice, clean, easy to navigate website. It's not convoluted with a bunch of commercials and clickbait. It's a great website. Whether you give 100 once or 5 every month, your support makes all that happen. So please keep doing it. This station thrives because listeners like you step up at every level. Your gift helps power the newsroom, keeps trusted programs on the air, and ensures that public media will stay accessible to all. 888-909-0887.
This is Ira Glass.
I want to make a movie about this.
The Arts Hour brings you film,
The themes in it are so far ahead of their time.
books,
The detail is amazing.
art,
There's all the personal stuff.
theatre,
Lots of singing and dancing and colours.
music,
The dance floor is made for dancing.
and everything in between.
I want it to be exciting.
That's the Arts Hour with me, Nikki Beatty.
I really identified with it.
From the BBC.
The Arts Hour, Friday nights at 9 on News 88.7.
This is Ira Glass. On This American Life, sometimes we just show up somewhere, turn on our tape recorders, and see what happens.
If you can't get 7 cars in 12 days, you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, holy, what are you kidding me?
Like at this car dealership, trying to sell its monthly quota of cars, and it is not going well.
I just don't want one balloon to a car. Balloon the whole freaking place so it looks like a circus.
Real life stories every week.
Saturdays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Berkman International, providing insights into workplace dynamics and individual needs to help organizations develop talent, improve communication, strengthen retention, and drive innovation. More at berkman.com/connect.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to maternal fetal specialist Dr. Jerry Refuerzo, who helps keep moms and babies healthy and safe through high-risk pregnancies and births. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Houston Public Library Foundation, opening doors to discovery this summer through educational programs, books, and digital tools for everyone. More at houstonlibraryfoundation.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We're back.
We're back. From July 22nd to August 2nd, Houston will, for the 4th time, host the AAU Junior Olympic Games. This is the largest youth multi-sport event in the United States. Roughly 15,000 youth participants from all around the country will compete in a variety of sports as they're cheered on by friends, family, and coaches that I would imagine are so proud and are in attendance. And joining us now to tell us more is Juan Garcia, the chairman chairman of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. Juan, welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for helping spread the word.
Absolutely. So when we hear, youth participants, what is the age group that we're looking at that will be participating in this event?
Yeah, from 12 to 18 years old, but 15,000 people along with 60,000 people that'll join them, family, friends, coaches, all them cheering them on all over Houston.
I can tell by your delivery you're not at all excited about this.
Well, it's, the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, its mission is to highlight Houston and bring events like this, and this is the fourth time we've had it. We're also going to have it in 2027 and in 2031, so they love Houston and how the Houston community embraces them and welcomes them, so yes, I'm excited to host them.
What kind of games are being played?
Well, you name it. We have it. We have gymnastics, field hockey. We have all track and field up in the north side of Houston. We even have sports stacking. So if you've seen them stacking cups, it's part of that. But we have gymnastics, wrestling, taekwondo.
Frank really just wants to know if pickleball is involved or not.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet.
Cornhole? What about cornhole? Where they throw the bean bags. That's always
probably.
Fun. You need a scholarship on cornhole.
Speaking of practice the stacking. The stacking and kind of get it as quick as
3
possible.
seconds.
Exactly.
Speaking of scholarships and such, do people come and recruit from these games? Are there people looking at these athletes like they do in high school games and stuff for college teams? Does that happen?
Absolutely. And these are our future Olympians in many instances. When you're looking at track and field, this is the best that the country has to offer in youth sports, right? And so it's a tremendous opportunity for them to start practicing for what could be a bigger stage in the future for them. And so, and we, the Harris County Houston Sports Authority, sets it up so that they can have a great time while they're doing it here in Houston. So absolutely.
So we get to see this raw, fresh, new talent out there.
No doubt, no doubt.
And that's what I was actually curious about, because oftentimes when we watch the Olympics, the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics, we see how young already these athletes are. So the Junior Olympics, so is it anybody can basically, how does that work? You don't audition, you don't apply. What is that process? How do you qualify?
Yeah, well, they're from all over the country, and obviously there are, events leading up to this, to the track and field, so around the country where they're leading up, and we'll take the best of the best from this, and then the AAU Junior Olympic Games, they go and they qualify and they make sure that they are supposed to be here. And so it's a year-long process.
It's like going to the Olympics, but you're just,
No doubt.
So,
they do it here year to year.
You mentioned North Houston. Where are all the venues and how can people come and watch?
Yes, so it's staggered. Obviously, you go to the best case is to go to the AAU Junior Olympic website or even the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. But we have the track and field that'll be up in the Humble area doing it. The George R. Brown hosts a lot of the inside events. The field hockey will be here right in the Galleria area, and that's how you spread it out. And so it starts tomorrow, ends August 2nd with the closing ceremonies, but the various events are staggered throughout that time period in various events around Houston.
So that's about 10, 11 days. It's
No doubt.
That's long. And now it's going to be hot. What are we doing to protect our kids out there?
No doubt, especially outside at the Humble area in the track and field. It will be hot. That's obviously one of our main concerns, and we have taken mitigation efforts to do it. But if you want to take the easy way out, go to George R. Brown and go inside where it's nice and air conditioned, and you can view it there too. But most of the events outside, and our 700 plus volunteers, a lot of them will be outside at the track and field events that obviously are required. Now, I'll tell you, these young people are used to it, right? This is what they do. They're out at these track and field events, and if you've gone to them, you're outside for a very long time, but we've taken some mitigation efforts and obviously to make sure everybody is safe out there in the heat.
Okay, you tickled my fancy. You said about closing, and then I thought, oh my God, opening ceremony, closing ceremonies. Who participates? Is there an event surrounding that's celebrity named?
Yeah, I know I'm invited, but that doesn't count as a celebrity name. But it will be on August 2nd out in Humble in the closing ceremonies. We'll do it there, and so we'll be celebrating all of the athletes on that date and the closing ceremonies. And hopefully we'll do something where we're bringing it back to Houston in a couple of years, because we will be hosting this event. And I will tell you, the AAU Junior Olympic Games really enjoy coming to Houston, and so it's a extreme honor hosting all of these young people and their families.
You talk about them enjoying coming to Houston. I know whenever we put in our bid for the Olympics, people are always saying it's just too hot, like Frank was mentioning. What is the draw then for the Junior Olympics? What have they loved about us that we can say to the big old Olympics, hey, look it, they love us?
Yeah, well, you look, the Sports Authority, obviously, we're hosting FIFA next year, 7 of the games, one of the 11 cities. We have the World Baseball Classic coming in March. But for example, in this case, we've helped them acquire 30,000 hotel rooms for the kids and and their families and the coaches and all the guests.
I never think about that part of it.
So the logistics around hosting an event like this is incredible, and our staff at the Sports Authority does a tremendous job, and this is what they do. And so we make it easy for these organizations to come in here, and that's the same thing that we've done with the World Baseball Classic along with the Houston Astros and Houston First, but that's what we do.
What kind of money does it bring to the city?
Well, this is estimated to bring around $90 million in economic impact.
Wow.
Yes.
It's a lot of hotel rooms.
It is a hotel rooms and a lot of restaurants, a lot of sightseeing events and going around.
Families that are coming, siblings come and aunts and uncles get to see, the students.
Huge.
Sure.
I'm on Ernie's page. I think we need to get the big boys down here, because I used to help try to get them here by telling them, look, the weather's not that bad. We have these venues. We could do it in the summer, and it never went anywhere. So I need to try again.
Maybe we should do the Winter Olympics, the warmest Winter Olympics on record.
Juan, obviously, there's a lot of excitement around this. What are you most looking forward to?
Well, just the hosting the families and especially the kids. They have a great time. They've worked so hard to get to this point, and here we come. We start tomorrow, and the next few days, they'll be doing what they do best.
Awesome.
Juan Garcia is the chairman of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. Juan, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Well, thank you for having us, and everybody go out there and support these young people.
That's right. Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into the top stories of the day. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston. Bring us in.
We have an emergency fundraising campaign because federal funding for public media has been cut. For Houston Public Media, that's $2.2 million loss. That's 10% of our budget every year. That's why we're turning to you. Your donation supports the Resiliency Fund and goes directly into the journalism you rely on. Help fill this critical gap at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. I'm Ernie Manous here with Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
If you've been listening to NPR for years, you know what makes it different. Fact-based reporting, thoughtful conversations, and a commitment to truth over the noise. That's why after the decision was made to cut federal funding by $2.2 million or 10% annually to Houston Public Media, we launched this Resiliency Fund to keep that standard strong and uninterrupted. This fund was specifically created to bridge the gap lost with federal funding cuts to public media. Support the service you trust at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
You tune in each day and you listen to Hello Houston, and you may think to yourself, that's a little different than traditional NPR programming. And that's exactly why we're here, looking for new ways to reach new audiences, but still bring you the value of local programming and consistently strong news coverage. So every day we invite you into the conversation so we can hear and understand our own community better and share with you what we're doing. But even with federal funding cuts to our station, we remain committed to providing you the information you rely on. You can show your support today for what we're doing and what we can do in the future by keeping us strong. Go to houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
If you've never donated before, here's why now matters. Your first gift doesn't just support the programs you love, it helps ensure that we're here for everyone. It starts with one gift at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate, or again, pick up that phone, 888-909-0887.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Donations come in many forms: a monthly membership, a one-time gift, and that extra vehicle you no longer need. We take any kind of vehicle in any condition. Learn more at houstonpublicmedia.org/cars. And thank you.
This weather update is brought to you by Paul D. Clote, attorney, mediator, arbitrator.
88 degrees at the University of Houston and mostly cloudy. I'm Tiffany Taylor. Highs in the mid-90s and a 20% chance of thunderstorms. Lows in the upper 70s. This is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into today's top stories, including Texas lawmakers convening today for the start of a special legislative session. We'll speak with University of Houston professor and party politics co-host Brendan Rottinghaus to help break it all down. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with Congressman Randy Weber, a Republican from Friendswood, who has introduced bipartisan legislation to enhance our weather forecasting capabilities.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Plus, we'll also talk with a Rice University graduate student who tells us about a study that looks at the impact music has on memory.
And we want to hear from you, so give us a call or text us, 713-440-8870, or email us, talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to hellohouston.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. With an eye toward the midterm elections and the balance of power in Congress, Republican lawmakers in Texas are holding a special legislative session and are set to redraw the state's congressional maps. NPR's Hansi Lowang reports on why Governor Greg Abbott is pushing for new maps 5 years before the next census.
Abbott pointed to a letter he received this month from the Justice Department under the Trump administration, and that letter claims the map that Republican lawmakers passed back in 2021 is unconstitutional. You know, a lot of legal experts are skeptical of the letter's reasoning, though, because President Trump has been vocal about wanting a new map that he thinks can get Republicans 5 more seats in Texas.
NPR's Hansi Lowang reporting. A federal judge in Louisville is expected to hand down a sentence this afternoon for former police detective Brett Hankison. Hankison was convicted last fall of violating the rights of Breonna Taylor during a botched 2020 raid that ended in her killing. Roberta Roldan with Louisville Public Media has details.
The U.S. Probation Office recommended Hankison receive 11 to 14 years in prison. But last week, the Department of Justice endorsed a one-day jail sentence and questioned whether Hankison should have been prosecuted in the first place. Lawyers representing Taylor's family called the DOJ's sentencing memo a slap in the face, and they urged the judge to deliver justice. Taylor's mother and the people involved in the protest movement that her killing fueled in 2020 are expected to be at the courthouse this afternoon. Hankison's conviction came during his third criminal trial. He was acquitted of state charges in 2022, and his first federal trial resulted in a hung jury. For NPR News, I'm Roberta Roldan in Louisville.
Ecuador's most notorious narcotics leader is now in the United States and is expected to face drug and weapons charges in federal court today. NPR's Carrie Kahn reports the gang was extradited, or leader rather, was extradited to the U.S. after his dramatic arrest in Ecuador earlier this year.
Jose Adolfo Macias Villamar, known as Fito, is the alleged head of Ecuador's powerful narcotics game Los Troneros. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, Macias was extradited Sunday from Ecuador. In an indictment unsealed earlier this year, Macias faces 7 counts, including conspiracy to traffic cocaine and firearm smuggling. Macias had escaped twice from Ecuadorian prisons. He was recaptured in a stunning operation last month where he was found hiding in an elaborate bunker under a coastal villa. In a recently passed referendum, Ecuadorians voted to allow extradition of its citizens as violence and homicides have skyrocketed in the once peaceful South American nation. Carrie Kahn, NPR News.
This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The number of people reported missing from the July 4th catastrophic flash flooding in Kerr County in the Texas Hill Country has now dropped to 3. At one point, the total number of missing people was more than 160. Governor Greg Abbott offered hope last week that a number of missing people from the flood would be found safe.
Even though we are reporting 97 people missing, there's no certainty that all 97 of those people were swept away by the storm.
That flash flood hit the start of the holiday weekend, and the riverfront was crowded with campers and other visitors. The flooding killed at least 135 people along the upper Guadalupe River. One teenager is dead and 2 others seriously injured after someone opened fire at a pool party in East Harris County. Major Anthony McConnell with the Harris County Sheriff's Office says officers were called to an apartment complex on Liberty River Drive just before midnight.
We believe multiple shooters at this point in time shot into the crowd. 3 people were hit. 1 is deceased on scene, and 2 were transported from the scene.
Authorities say about 25 teens were unsupervised at the swimming pool when the shooting took place. A small plane crashed in a field in Crosby, northeast of Houston, this morning. That's according to the Texas Department of Public Safety. No injuries have been reported. Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez says 2 occupants were removed from the plane unharmed. It's not clear yet what happened to cause the plane crash. In sports this weekend, the Astros lost 2 of their 3 games against the Seattle Mariners. Yesterday was an 11-3 loss. The Stros are in Arizona tonight to start a series against the Diamondbacks. They are currently 4 games in front of Seattle for first place in the American League West Division. Hotter temperatures are ahead this week. So far, we've had no triple-digit days this year, but highs this week will get close. Sunny with a high of 95 today, lows around 79. There's a 20% chance of showers and thunderstorms this afternoon after 4 p.m. Currently 88 degrees here on the UH campus. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from BetterHelp, committed to making mental well-being a priority and offering support in taking on everything life demands, with therapists available to communicate via video, chat, or phone at betterhelp.com/public.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And hello there, Houston. You didn't give the date today. Don't you like to give the date?
I love to give the
usually?
dates. July 21st. We are moving right through this summer.
Why do you love this day? Just because you love it?
No. I like giving the date at the top of the show just because, sometimes I feel like we're going through time. And as I get older, I realize I'm like, a lot of my conversation now with friends revolves around, can you believe it's already July?
Oh, I know. We're almost to Christmas.
We're almost to Christmas. Can you believe the next holiday is, well, for those who celebrate Halloween?
Celebrate
Halloween.
You know what? Is that more of an observe Halloween or celebrate Halloween?
We celebrate.
Observe.
I celebrate Halloween.
I also feel like back to school, that August, September could be its own kind of feeling for parents. See, that fall is in the air and all the school supplies are back in Target.
Once you hit the beginning of August, though, we fly right into October, because it's back to school. It's into September. It's the beginning of the fall. And then all of a sudden, already the Halloween stuff is coming out. I do want to recognize, though, 2 national days that are happening today. I used to do this all the time, and I don't get to them anymore, so I'm putting it at the top here.
Lately, we've had so much news that we haven't gotten to them.
And before we get to that news, today is National Junk Food Day. Who wants to celebrate with me? Or observe, as Frank would say.
Well, it depends, because in the Texas Legislature, we've had lots of conversation of what's
junk
healthy
food
and what's junk and what's
right, so
not.
get that junk food in today while we still have a National Junk Food Day. And also, it's National Get Out of the Doghouse Day.
Ooh.
Do you have anything?
Done that.
Do you have anything to get out of the doghouse about?
No, but I think that anybody listening, if you're in the doghouse, you know you're in the doghouse. When you hear that, you're like, oh yeah, that one's for me.
Yeah, let us know why you're in the doghouse. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. I want to know what you need to get out of the doghouse for. Weather-wise, Frank, things are
hot. Probably one of the hottest weeks we're going to see so far this summer. Like 95, 96 is going to be pretty standard. Feels like numbers 103. And then we get, looks like a chance of rain coming in Friday, Saturday, if this disturbance tries to move across the Gulf, kind of like the last one did.
Yeah.
The last one didn't do much in terms of rain.
Well, I hope that it doesn't. We've had a lot of concerns, a lot of things going on. But, we also have coming up in the show talking about weather. Congressman Randy Weber is going to be with us. He's a Republican from Friendswood. He's introducing bipartisan legislation to enhance our weather forecasting capabilities. So we'll be talking about that coming up in just a little bit. But let's begin the headlines.
That's right. And our first one is when Texas state lawmakers convene today for a special legislative session. They will already be strapped for time. Members of the legislature will have 30 days to work through a crowded agenda set by Governor Greg Abbott, defined largely by 2 items. Legislation in response to Central Texas floods that killed more than 100 people, and a redrawing of the state's congressional districts ordered up by President Donald Trump. Joining us now is University of Houston professor and party politics co-host Brandon Rottinghaus to break down the session. And if you have any questions for Brandon, you can join the conversation at 713-440-8870.
So, a lot going on, Brandon.
There's a lot going on. I don't think it's a coincidence that the legislature starts a special session on National Get Out of the Doghouse Day, as Ernie said. I think a lot of lawmakers are thinking, how can we stay out of the doghouse and get all this done in 30 days? It's going to be a real push.
So what do you think is their biggest challenge? The redistricting?
The biggest challenge really is the clock. It's the calendar. And this is often the case in the legislature where there's simply just not enough time to accommodate all of the things that they want to do. Now, in this case, the governor's had a list that's pretty modest in terms of the total number, but for 30 days with divides between the House and the Senate, with partisan conflict like redistricting, Frank, you mentioned, it's just going to be really tough. I think the hardest thing is redistricting. It's always the biggest political challenge. It's the thing that spurred a kind of real fights beginning in the early 2000s between Republicans and Democrats. So it's going to be the biggest challenge that they face politically, but there are some other really lingering difficult policy issues to tackle as well.
When we want to get to those, give me a little refresher course on this. So something comes back to the House or the Senate and has to go through the same rigmarole, go through the Senate, go to committee, go to the House, how does it work?
Yeah, it's a great question. The process is largely the same. It's just sped up a little bit. One difference is that the only thing that legislators can consider is something that's on the governor's call. So it has to be on the governor's list in order for it to be considered. If they pass something that's not in that list, then the governor can veto it, or it could be the case that one of the committees decides to kick it back. So they've got 30 days to essentially run the same kind of legislative operation they normally do. And the divide you mentioned is really important. I mean, you've got real differences here between the House and the Senate ideologically, and in terms of preferences for regulation on things like THC and the STAR test, and differences in terms of property taxes. So there are going to be some serious divides between chambers.
Now, Brandon, you mentioned the STAR test, and just really quickly, please break it down for us. So we're looking at potentially eliminating the STAR test. What does that mean, and what do you think will most likely happen?
Yeah, the process here is been a slow one. It's been something that they've talked about for a very long time. Basically, as you kind of imply, the goal is to kind of repeal and replace. They're going to take what is the current STAR exam. And I know that all parents and kids who heard that have a little kind of shiver go up their spine when they think about the STAR exam. And they're not alone, because this has been a kind of common complaint. The House and Senate have differences of opinion about how to pursue this. In the House version, they are going to trim it down to 3 times a year to have the test. It'll be essentially criterion based. The Senate has a slightly different idea in terms of how to do it. It gives more power to the education commissioner to be able to accomplish that, and has specific goals in terms of what they're going to test on it. So there are some pretty big divides between House and Senate and how to do this. So the STAR test will exist in some capacity. I'm sure they'll rename it something like, if you're old like me, you'd taken the TOX test way back in the day. But there are lots of ways they can change it. And so the question is really how, and that's something they're going to have to figure out.
Let me take you back to something you said a few minutes ago in the separation of philosophies between the House and the Senate. Is there more a difference there between the House and the Senate's belief in how they want to see things going, or is there more of a difference between the Democrats and the Republicans? How exactly are the two different things breaking up?
Yeah, it's a good question, Ernie. I mean, I think part of it boils down to the leadership in both. The leadership in the Senate has been pretty stable for a long time. Dan Patrick, as lieutenant governor, is constitutionally the head of that body. And so he has really left his imprimatur on the politics and the ideology of the Senate, such that now really he controls things with basically an iron fist. That gives him a lot of credibility and ability to be able to push very conservative laws out of the Senate. That's why they can move much quicker with a much more kind of conservative bent, because the lieutenant governor is really driving the engine on that. Now, on the House side, it's a little different. You've got a new Speaker of the House. You've got a lot of new House members. Many of them are indebted to Greg Abbott for their seats. Their process is a little slower. There are 150 of those members. They've got a lot more committees. They've got a lot more responsibilities. So they often get lampooned by the Senate for going too slowly. But the fact is that that's just really the best way that they can proceed. And ideologically, it's slightly more moderate, because the House members, at least overall, have represented districts that are slightly more moderate in general. And a lot of those members have been around for a long time, and that tends to lead to some moderation too.
With just 30 days and talking about the House moving a little slower, is there a game at play to beat the clock? You know, you don't want to get to districting, so you're going to prolong the weather part of it and the emergency stuff, make that more elaborate, and then you slow it, and so you don't get it in the 30 days.
Yeah, there's a lot of gaming the calendar on this. The legislature has a long history of this that's really interesting to see. And honestly, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think for Democrats, they'd love to see the time kind of be eaten up with partisan debates about, THC, or about, how to reform the STAR test. So all these specific details are going to definitely eat up a lot of that attention. That's what Democrats want. They want the light shined on Texas. We obviously see this as a process driven in large part by Donald Trump. The redistricting is not uncommon to be kind of pressured from national Republicans. This is what happened in 2003. So it is a moment where Democrats are hoping to get the maximum amount of attention on the kind of things that they think are going wrong. And for some Republicans too, they don't want to see the kind of regulatory changes that are happening here. And so they'd rather simply have nothing in the stead of having something they don't like. So the clock really is the issue here. But the news here, of course, is good for Greg Abbott. And that's that if he wants to, and he doesn't get what he wants from the ledge, he can call for an extra 30 days.
That was going to be my next question. You get to the end of 30 days and he can just keep calling them back until he gets this stuff he wants done.
Which, Brandon, looking, obviously, we were talking about the 30 days and we looked at the governor's agenda and focusing on the fact that we just experienced a major disaster. What are going to be the priorities when we're looking at warning alert systems? Do you think we will have productive movement in the right direction? Do you think this is something that Republicans and Democrats are going to get behind, or what are your thoughts?
I think this is probably a pretty bipartisan effort. I think everyone seeing the tragedy and the kind of drama unfold in Central Texas sees the need to make some big changes here. Some of them are regulatory changes, which might take a bit of time to get Republicans to back. That's part of the reason some of these bills didn't pass. But the rest can be solved with money. The state controller today just released an estimate that suggested the state's got about $3 billion extra dollars to play with. So the money is not the problem. They'll be able to spend that on things like warning systems, like you say, and the technology to help make it work. So I do think there's a process here where that's really the easiest part and the part that everybody agrees needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, and when you look at the whole landscape of this and you talk about things that we can come together on, especially after the disaster and the emergency that just happened, could those kumbaya moments of coming together help build a better relationship between the two parties in the state houses and actually make it a little bit more productive? Or they're here together on this issue and then they're back at it?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and really does, I think, define our kind of current moment in politics. You'd love to see people get together and find common ground, and they often do. And we shouldn't leave people with the impression that lawmakers are always at each other's throats, because they're definitely not. There's a lot of moments where they have to work together on things that are simply just administrative or things that are procedural. But of course, when you've got redistricting on the menu, it's going to make everything tainted. So it's going to be really hard for the members to come together, even those that typically work together on this, because it is one of those moments where Republicans see this as something that they have to do. It's driven by Greg Abbott, driven by Donald Trump. Democrats see this as part of a national fight that they would very much like to win. So it's just a real challenge for them to be able to find common ground on such a hot button political issue.
Well, and I think this redistricting is going to tear up not just them, but a lot of the state. We did get a text to that saying that Texas has 13 blue districts compared to 25 red districts, which is about a third of districts. 42% of Texans voted for Kamala Harris in 2024. Trump's goal is to gain 5 red seats, resulting in only 8 blue seats. This redistricting effort is unnecessary and a slap in the face of democracy for the whole country. It's legal. John Roberts has said it's legal, and I've even read articles that said the plan for redistricting is probably right there in a desk drawer, and it'll take a matter of seconds to do it.
Yeah, that's, I think, a fair assessment. Definitely, it's the case that the Republicans are worried about what might happen in the midterm. They're looking to squeeze extra seats out of Texas. And here's the problem. When you start to go down this road, when you have redistricting happen every time you need more seats, all it does is create this kind of counter movement from the other side. So places like California are recommending that their state go through redistricting and add extra seats for Democrats to balance it out. This is an endless war that ends up hurting people. It's really then politicians picking their voters instead of having the voters pick their politicians. So the long-term implications are dramatic and I think very much problematic. And so we'll see how it plays out. And obviously it's the case that this is going to be something that we see formulate the next couple of weeks here as things settle in.
Well, and I don't want to start any rumors, but I'm sure you've heard the rumor that Trump said to Abbott, if you want FEMA money, we need some seats. True, false, complete, utterly ridiculous? What do you think?
I've not heard that specifically, but it wouldn't surprise me just because, redistricting is hardball, and really it's about protecting every single seat. If you look at what's happening in DC, the number of wins that the Trump administration has gotten off of a handful of votes is outstanding. And that's something that they really don't want to have to continue past the midterms. They'd love to have a bit more of a cushion. So that's really driving much of this. So it wouldn't be surprising to see the president playing hardball and Texas to some degree playing along with it, because Donald Trump is still pretty popular here. He's still very popular among the Republican base. And most of the time, it's the case that Republicans would do more or less what he wanted.
Before we run out of time today, though, Brandon, there is something we do want to talk about. A prominent member of not just the Houston community, but also our family here on the air, has been with us a lot. Bob Stein left us. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Bob was a great person. He had these great steely blue eyes that he would just kind of probe your arguments with. When you'd tell him an idea, he'd read a paper or something of yours. He'd really, think about it carefully and honestly. And that's what I'm going to remember most about Bob, is just the friendly and kind of compassionate and really tough way that he would help when you needed something academic wise. On a personal side, he was such a great friend and such a great mentor. I got to know him over the years of doing projects with him and in the same space as him. And it was just a real joy to get to work with him as much as possible. The Houston, community mourns him. The Rice community is going to have to suffer through this awful loss. So I'm going to miss him a lot. I'm sure a lot of our viewers will too.
Yeah, renowned political scientist. He was at Rice University for 46 years, often a voice on our programs, your program, always there to help us better understand the world we lived in. He was also on KHOU 11 as a political analyst, just so much. And it was pretty surprising. He left us on Friday at only 75 years old.
It's sad. Bob had toyed with retirement for a long, long time. And I told him, you're never going to retire. You love it too much. And he definitely did. So I'm so glad that he got to do all the fun projects that he wanted to do and make such a big impact on how we think about politics in Houston and in Texas and nationwide. He just literally published a paper that came out not that long ago. So his legacy is going to be profound, and he'll be sorely missed.
Thank you for those kind words.
That's right. University of Houston professor and party politics co-host Brandon Rottinghaus. Brandon, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Hey, thanks, y'all.
And coming up, we will speak with Congressman Randy Weber, who represents Texas' 14th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives. All that right after the next break. With federal funding for public media cut, we turn to you and ask that you give to Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. This fund is our response to our loss of $2.2 million, or 10% annually at Houston Public Media. We bring you fact-based reporting that keeps you informed about the issues that matter. But this service doesn't exist without listener support. Make your donation now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887. I'm Celestia Sherman here with Ernie Manous.
Thank you, Celeste. To our long-term listeners, you've made public media what it is today. And with a $2.2 million annual cut in federal funding for Houston Public Media, we're turning to you again. The Resiliency Fund is how we protect NPR journalism and the values we all share. Support it now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
And, you know, right here on Hello Houston, we are constantly looking at what is the latest information that can help you make better decisions. And that's something that there's conversations that are had. Our journalists are recently out. As we were watching what was happening in Central Texas, we made sure to have boots on the ground right here, Houston journalists that were in Central Texas. And we can't do that without your support. So give today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Have you been listening for years but never given? Right now is the perfect time to become a new member of Houston Public Media. Your very first gift helps to protect trusted local news, 20 hours of Houston-based programming every week, and the NPR stories that keep you informed. With federal funding cuts, your support is more important than ever. So join us today. Become a new member at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or give us a call, 888-909-0887.
Thousands of people across Greater Houston already give monthly to Houston Public Media, most at $5 or $10 per month. And that community of support helps cover our essential cost that comes with local journalism, trusted national programs, and everything it takes to keep us on the air. Your gift, no matter the size, becomes part of something much bigger. It keeps Houston Public Media strong for everyone in our community who rely on our station. With federal funding cuts, it's never been more important to make your gift. Do that at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
You know, we say it often because it's true. Every gift counts. From $10 a month to a one-time contribution, your support helps keep this station running. It covers the cost of our local newsroom, the programs you rely on, and the work we do to serve all of Houston. Whatever you can give, it truly makes a difference. Your gift right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate will help us. Or you can give us a call, 888-909-0887. Do it right now. Make your gift help support our Resiliency Fund as we move forward.
Ambulances and military medics can't routinely carry blood because it goes bad too fast. But scientists are optimistic that they may be closer to successfully creating artificial blood.
The moment it's needed, a medic can mix it with water, and within a minute you have blood.
A look at the latest research on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
You
can't tackle life's big challenges if you let the little ones get you down. That's why Houston Matters devotes the first Monday of each month to a sort of group moan session we call Houstonian Pet Peeves. It's a communal, cathartic experience, but not everyone can join us live at 9 a.m., and not every peeve occurs to you right then and there. That's okay. We welcome your gripes about life in Houston anytime at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Downtown Houston Plus, with new businesses like Tenfold Coffee Company, Meow Wolf, Barbacana, Punchline Comedy Club, and Bubble Boba. Details at downtownhouston.org.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to maternal fetal specialist Dr. Jerry Refuerzo, who helps keep moms and babies healthy and safe through high-risk pregnancies and births. More at uth.edu/manyfaces.
Support comes from Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, presenting jazz saxophonist Dave Kaz and Friends. Summer Horns 2025 Tour on Friday, August 1st at Smart Financial Center. Tickets at smartfinancialcenter.net.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We're still making sense of the catastrophic floods in central Texas earlier this month, a tragic event that left communities reeling and raised tough questions about how we fund weather predictions. In response, Congressman Randy Weber, representing Texas' 14th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives, has introduced bipartisan legislation to enhance our weather forecasting capabilities, improving precipitation models and alert systems for NOAA. It's designed to give Texas more advanced warning to avoid another catastrophe. Representative Weber joins us today to walk us through the bill's key provisions and why it's so crucial to our region and how it can help reshape Texas' defense against extreme weather. Representative Weber, good morning and welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, good. It's actually good afternoon here in D.C., Ernie.
It's actually good afternoon here, too. I'm off. But also, it's not just welcome, it's welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. And if I can be so bold, y'all were speaking of somebody that passed away earlier on. I caught the end of it. Who was that?
Bob Stein from Rice University.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, a political scientist and a commentator who's been with us for many years and helped us make sense of all this crazy world we all toil in. And it's a sad loss.
If you wrote that down anywhere, I'd like to see a copy of it, how to make sense of all this.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? But you're trying to make sense of some of it right now with the legislation you're introducing. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, absolutely. Of course, you know it's bipartisan with Deborah Ross out of North Carolina. And you know North Carolina had a pretty bad hurricane come up through there, the western part really, here a while back. And of course, you know Texas is absolutely no stranger to hurricanes. So better forecasting models. I don't know how much I know about my Texas. I know Frank knows about my Texas district. The first four coastal counties from Louisiana, Galveston being one of them, Jefferson County, and then Missouri County, and also Orange County. We have a lot of hurricanes. Our thought is what we want to basically do is with our bill, which we hope will come up sometime later in this session, we're wanting absolutely to get the best things that we can from innovation, not through bureaucracy. We want to be able to forecast things during and we'll even roll in the Texas flood here, unfortunately, that happened in the middle of the night. A better system to get those kinds of, warnings out. Better systems for hurricane tracking and even Tornado Alley. None of our areas in Tornado Alley, that's Northeast Texas and further on. But it's just better systems, better use of funds, absolutely having the best tools necessary to be able to predict the kinds of weather formations that we all are afraid of.
Well, the models are there. They're pretty good. any model is only going to be as good as the data that goes into the model, right? So the data's got to come real time, and that's weather balloons. And you probably know the weather balloons have been cut. There are only 92 weather balloons that are actually launched in the United States. 6 sites, 6 balloons in Texas, 6. And that people don't understand. We're not talking about a balloon. We're talking about a look at the atmosphere from the ground to 25, 30,000 feet up and even higher in some cases. And that tells us real time what's going on in order to make these forecasts. So what are we going to do about more weather balloons?
Well, I think, Frank, here's what is actually happening. Of course, I've been involved in Republican Party politics since Reagan ran for election in 83. So what's that, 42 years? And we've been talking about waste, fraud, and abuse for a long time. Well, there's a lot of waste. There is some fraud, and we're finding some abuse. And I think what you're seeing is, so many of all of the agencies, basically, they're trimming. The administration is trimming as much as they can. And I think you'll see us come back, and you'll see us do things that will help when we find out that we can actually bolster this area, that we can actually come back and, because as you know, we have a 2-year funding cycle. We can come back and do that in the next spending bill anytime we want to. And if it so happens that Texas is under a lot of duress over this, a lot of bad weather, then we probably will act quicker rather than later. You know that there's supplemental appropriation bills in this process. So right. I wouldn't be too terribly upset by the fact that they've cut back some. It may be that there's some in the offing that we just haven't discussed yet.
Well, I know you've set aside $15 million a year in your bill. I read your bill. That's not a lot of money. Not when a weather balloon's $350 every single time you launch it. So you can run through $15 million just on weather balloons pretty fast. Yeah. But I don't want to belabor that too much. But what about? Let's move to the gauges on the rivers. Is that something that's going to be state or federal or both?
Well, that's probably outside my jurisdiction, because here's why. I think it may be it's probably in Bruce Westerman's, Chairman Westerman's bailiwick, if you will, because as you know, those rivers run. Take, for example, Mississippi River. A lot of these rivers come down. You've got federal channels involved. Now, we do have some federal channels in Galveston, Port of Galveston, of course, Port of Houston. I've got 7 ports in my district, more than the other member of Congress. Port of Beaumont, Sabine Nations Navigation District governs that Sabine Nation Waterway. So there's federal money involved, but there's also state's money. You got to give the state of Texas credit. Boy, they have stepped up with Ike Dike money. Some people call it Ike Dike, the coastal barrier protection, we call it. So it depends on who has jurisdiction. But I think in most of those rivers that we're talking about, delivering, trade and commerce, of course, it's federal jurisdiction, interstate commerce. Those that come through Texas, like the river that overflowed here, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I've been on that river. We've gone camping. We've been ballooning on that river a whole bunch of times. So I think the federal rivers will be the ones that will get the federal money.
I guess to stay on that point just for a minute there, to help me understand your position and how you look at it. So much of what we hear talked about at the federal level is putting things back on the states. But then I think in an area like this, it's something that needs federal because the weather patterns don't know our boundaries, and so they move through it. How do you understand and appreciate where funding should come for all of this kind of work when it comes to better understanding forecasting and all of that? How much is the state involved? How much? And I know that's a little bit on what you were just talking about, but if you can explain philosophy.
Well, tongue in cheek, the state or the feds should have hired Frank Billingsley, because he was always spot on in predicting everything. Never made.
Well, sorry, we beat you to him, so we got him. But
pretty darn
But
good.
No, you're absolutely right. I think what happens, and look, we have the National Weather Bureau Service in Galveston, down in the League City area. I don't know how, and Frank, you probably know that. I'm not sure if any of y'all have been there. I've been there, toured that facility.
Sure.
So the states and the federal government do work together. Of course, I mentioned Tornado Alley earlier. It depends on who gets the most storms. We get a lot of storms up the Gulf Coast. My first storm was 1960. Was it 2 Hurricane Carla or 61 Hurricane Carla? Like 8 or 9 years old. So federal money, you're absolutely right. Storms don't know no boundaries, so to speak. And so there's collaboration, there's cooperation, so that the feds can help with whether it's weather balloons, whether it's stations like, for example, the National Weather Bureau Service in various areas. I think you see the states and the federal government collaborate on that.
Representative Weber, we did receive an email question for you. It says, the NOAA weather radio station, KHB 40, which provides coverage for Galveston County and surrounding areas, has been out of service since March 25. We are already midway through the hurricane season. What is Representative Weber doing to prioritize the reestablishment of this critical service on which many of his constituents depend? Thank you for your answer and attention to the matter. C. John Young Jr. of Friendswood.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Now, we're actually fighting on another front to keep AM radios in vehicles. I don't know if y'all been following that at all, because a lot of people, especially in some of the rural areas, do get information, especially weather information, from AM radio. I was unaware that KHB 40 was out of operation, but we need as much as we can as in terms of alerting people that, you know, danger is coming. Unfortunately, for the people on the river Guadalupe, which I've been on many, many times, they didn't have a lot of notification. When Hurricane Ike hit in 2008, people could see that. And in most instances, as y'all know, hurricanes, you can see them coming 3, 4, 5 days out and make a decision to go. Now, some people don't know that Hurricane Ike, 190 people on the Gulf Coast lost their lives during Hurricane Ike because for whatever reason they chose not to evacuate. It wasn't that way, obviously, on the Guadalupe River. But we've reached out to NOAA. We're talking with NOAA about exactly those kinds of things to make sure that we keep as much weather information out there as we can. What's the best equipment, you know, for the least amount of money, so to speak? Because on our Gulf Coast of Texas, again, 7 ports, more than any other member of Congress, probably more hurricanes. Frank might know this, more hurricanes than just about anybody else, whether it's Louisiana, even all the way over to Florida. So it's important to us. We're staying in contact with NOAA and making sure that we want to get the best bang for the buck.
Accordingly, it was a fire at the transmitter in Hitchcock that destroyed the weather radio, but there's no plan to fix it. So hopefully you'll put that at the top of your list.
Oh, it is at the top of our list because that transmitter probably is, I'm going to guess, maybe 20 miles southeast of my house. So what affects it will affect everything. But again, we will go back to NOAA and the other agencies, National Weather Bureau, National Weather Service, and others, and say, what's the priority? So we've got a transformer out. Are we lagging behind because the transformer is not made in the United States because we can't get our hands on it? What is the problem? Mm-hmm. We're not unaware of that, Frank. Thanks for bringing that up.
Another thing I just mentioned here, if you want to help us out a little bit, the emergency response service for our area comes right from our station right here at NPR. So if you want to put a little something in the bill to help sustain that emergency response, we'll make sure that people hear our signal farther and further and wider.
Well, we would love to do that, to get that signal, especially on our Gulf Coast. Did I mention we have a lot of hurricanes?
Yes, we do.
Unfortunately, I'm not on appropriations and I'm not on Ways and Means, and so they don't listen to, everybody, of course, in all the houses saying, look, I need more money in my area. And in truth, that's true in some areas, but we would argue that with all the, of course, Tornado Alley, we would argue that Hurricane Alley needs it really bad. So that hadn't escaped us, and we've been banging that drum, so to speak, for a while.
Representative Randy Weber represents Friendswood. Representative Weber, thanks for joining us on Houston Public Media to ensure that everyone hears your message.
Well, thank you, Celeste. I appreciate you all having me on.
Thank you.
Good day.
Coming up, how does music affect memory? That's a question a study taking place at Rice University is trying to answer. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. We've
Why
learned
didn't we ask him about
last Friday that federal funding for public media, including Houston Public Media, has been cut. For us, that means a $2.2 million loss, or 10% every year. That's why we've created Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund and having this emergency fundraising campaign. This new fund helps protect the fact-based journalism and trusted programming you rely on every single day, even as federal support goes away. When you give to the Resiliency Fund, you're helping us continue to serve this community with local reporting, national coverage from NPR, and more than 15 hours of Houston-produced programming each week. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman here with Frank Billingsley.
Thank you, Celeste.
Hi, Frank.
All right, Houston Public Media is so much more than a station. It's a source of connection, learning, local storytelling. Every week, we bring you over 15 hours of Houston-based programming, from in-depth news to conversations that celebrate the people and the culture of our city. Your support of the Resiliency Fund ensures this local content and the NPR programs that you count on. It continues strong, free, accessible to everyone. So your gift today, it really is an investment in a more informed, better connected, stronger, and more resilient Houston. So support the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
And we love hearing from our members. That is what Hello Houston is all about. It's all about getting together and having our community informed. And we did receive a comment from Scott saying, your programming is now more important than ever. And we appreciate your comment, Scott, and appreciate your donation. And if you are listening, now is the time. It is right now to give today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
You know, maybe you've thought about giving, but you just haven't, and life gets busy. We understand that. But now's the day to take a step. So why wait? Become a new member of Houston Public Media. It's quick, it's easy, and today it's really important. Your support helps so much to close this gap that was left by federal funding cuts. Join the community that values fact-based news and local storytelling. Make your first gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
And the truth is, this station only exists because listeners step up to support it. That's it. And most do it by giving just a few dollars a month. And thank you for that. If it's $5 or $10 at a time, that funding keeps our local newsroom going. It's our programs on the air, just like this one, Hello Houston, and our service free and accessible to everyone. And that is the key, that this information is for everyone. You don't need to give a lot. Whatever's right for you right now, that's the right amount. All gifts add up, and it all matters. Make your gift right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or pick up that phone, 888-909-0887.
Our members give in all kinds of ways. One time, monthly, every one of them plays a role in keeping this station strong. So it is your contribution, your donation, no matter the size, that, by the way, you can write off your taxes, helps pay for the trusted news and programs you count on. We use your gift efficiently and with purpose to serve you, to serve our community. So please make your gift right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. It can be a one-time. You can get on the monthly list. We want you as a major donor if you're willing.
Yes.
888-909-0887.
Today is New Member Monday. Embark on an exciting journey by becoming a new member of Houston Public Media. Kickstart your week with a commitment to supporting reliable news, educational documentaries, and captivating arts. Select a contribution level that suits you, and in return, enjoy exclusive access to our streaming service on the PBS app. Your donation at houstonpublicmedia.org not only grants you these benefits, but also contributes to our mission of informing, educating, and inspiring Houston. Become a new member today.
Support comes from Children's Museum of Houston, presenting Faithful Friends, an exhibit fostering connection, curiosity, understanding, and friendship. Families explore other cultures through the eyes of Houston kids. More at cmhouston.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Texas Mutual Insurance Company, a workers' compensation provider committed to helping Texas communities and emphasizing safety. More at texasmutual.com/TexansGetIt.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Music can have a profound influence on our emotions, but have you ever wondered what impact it has on our memory? A recent published Rice University study explored this very question. What it found was an interesting interaction between music, emotion, and memory. To tell us more about this study, we're joined now by Rice University graduate student Kayla Clark. Kayla, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I'm glad you're here. My mom had dementia, and I tell you what, the last year of her life, she knew every word to every song I think she'd ever sung.
Wow.
She had a great voice. It had to be you. It had to be you.
So
she
didn't transfer
She
onto
would
you.
sing. Yeah, right. She had a great voice. She would sing and sing and sing, and then they had a group at where she was that would sing. She didn't often know my name, but she knew the words to those songs. So there is a connection. I've seen it in action. Tell us what you have found.
Absolutely. Music and memory seem to have a very interesting and strong connection with each other. It's a question I've been interested in since before I got to graduate school. And I wanted to pursue this by seeing how music interacts with our everyday memory. And so what we ended up doing is we had some undergraduates at Rice University come in, and what we first had them do is just learn some images. We showed them pictures of neutral, everyday objects and just had them sort of passively learn each of these objects. And right after that, we played them some music, different kinds of music. And so after that, after a little bit of time, a little bit of a break, we tested their memory to see what they would remember. And after we tested their memory, we found this very interesting interaction where people who had different levels of an emotional response to each piece of the music, they remembered different things depending on their level of emotional response. So those people who had a more sort of moderate increase of emotional arousal, sort of that activation you feel when you listen to music, people tended to remember more details about the objects and images that they saw. Whereas if they had a stronger response, like a pretty big increase or even a decrease in emotional arousal, they tended to remember just the general idea, the central components of the objects and images that they saw. So we're seeing this gist versus detail trade-off based on your emotional response to music after you've learned something.
So why the midsection, if I'll call it that, mid-memory, why is that more powerful in retaining information as opposed to a much more effusive response?
That is a great question. There's something in my field called the Yerkes-Dodson law. And what that references is that there's sort of this optimal level of emotional arousal that you experience that correlates to the best cognitive performance on any given task. If you're too highly aroused or your arousal is a little bit too low, say an example would be like if you're really, really stressed, that's when your arousal would be too high. Or if you're too sleepy or tired, that's when your arousal would be too low. So there's sort of this optimal middle range where it seems like the amount of arousal that you experience is going to correlate to the best cognitive performance on a task like a memory task.
I also want to go back to the old thought that people talk about. You hear a song and it takes you somewhere. It takes you back to a moment. Are we dealing with the same kind of thing here, that song relates to a memory of that time, and therefore that's why you feel transported back? You hear a song, it was like, oh my God, that was when I was in high school. I remember going out with this person. Are we talking about the same triggers in the brain?
I would say it's related. So what you're talking about is sort of like the ties between a specific instance and a specific song. Right, and those two things are very powerful. You can also be dealing with the same emotional response. Yes, so it's definitely music's emotional, powers, you could say, that translate to being sort of transported back. It's integral into that memory.
Is it music? Isn't there a specific part of the brain that really focuses on music and explains why people with dementia remember the music, remember the words, but may not even know where they are?
I would say it's actually the opposite. It seems that music is spread throughout the brain, and it seems to engage most areas of the brain when you're engaging in music, whether that's listening, singing, making music, etc. And it seems that those potentially those extensive connections that music is making while you're engaging in music and experiencing life that helps translate it to longer lasting memories.
Well, I've often heard that great singers, it's not about their vocal cords or their breathing or their nose or anything physical, it's their brain. Their brain knows how to make those sounds come out of their mouth.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk about singing or listening or even maybe composing music, does any one show a stronger connection there, or simply the act of music, no matter how you engage with it, helps with the memory?
I would say, as a simple answer, no matter how you engage with music should help. Now, it seems that actual engagement, when I say that, like, actively making music seems to make even greater of a difference than, say, just passively listening. But that's not to say that passively listening doesn't help as well. It just depends on certain features of, like, the experience and how much you're paying attention, et cetera. There's a lot of things that go into an experience like that.
How do we go from this knowledge, this information, this discovery into benefiting memory? Are there now practical ways, if you are going to study for a test, you should play a piece of music that you like, but not too much and not too little? I mean, are there ways we can now use it to our betterment? And especially, like Frank mentions, my mom also has dementia. Are there ways we can now incorporate that, or is it too early to know how to use the tool?
I think I have an early answer. Obviously, there's definitely a lot more research that needs to be done. But we have some things coming up in the field where it seems that to sort of get to that sort of optimal level that I was talking about earlier, you should pick a song that you really like. It seems to be really important that we target these sort of personalized aspects of music listening, where something like, you could play a piece of music, but if you really dislike it, there's a good chance that it may not be as beneficial, and it may not get you to that sort of optimal level of emotional response that would correspond to the best things translating to memory, etc.
But if you like it too much, aren't you engaging with it? Isn't your mind connecting to it more? A song I really love, I'm hearing that song, it fills a lot of places in my world. Or does it still stimulate the same way?
That's a very good question. There's a lot of things interacting here when you're sort of reaching that optimal level of response. One of the things that's important, yes, is how much you like the piece. But also something that's important to consider is the goals of why you're listening to that piece of music. A really great example that I like to give people is, like, you're going to listen to different types of music, say when you're driving in the car versus when you're cleaning versus when you're, like, working out, right? You want to try and listen, if you're going to work out, you probably want to listen to a song that's going to get you a little bit more amped up and energized. Whereas if you're, I don't know, doing something around the house, or maybe doing some math if you're a student, probably something that's going to keep you a little bit more calm and focused.
I hear music right now, Celeste.
That's right. Kayla Clark is a Rice University graduate student. Kayla, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that brings us to the end of our show.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
That's right. And we want to thank you for listening to Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7. Federal funding for public media, including Houston Public Media, has just been cut. For us, that's a $2.2 million loss every single year. That's why we launched the Resiliency Fund, to protect the journalism and local programming that you count on every single day. When you give today, you help sustain NPR shows and more than 15 hours of Houston locally produced content each week, just like this one, Hello Houston, stories that inform, connect, and celebrate the community. Make your gift now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman, here with Ernie Manous.
Thank you, Celeste. The Resiliency Fund is our way of meeting this moment together to continue to provide the news, education, and local stories that shape our community. Every week, Houston Public Media delivers over 15 hours of Houston-focused programming through programs like Houston Matters with Craig Cohen and Hello Houston. That's in addition to the trusted NPR shows you know and love. Your support today helps keep this local service strong and ensures everyone in our city can stay informed, and connected. Give to the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
And think about what you've learned just by listening today. I know I've already received a couple of emails about today's show, questions and wanting more information, a story that changed your perspective, news that helped you make a decision, a voice you wouldn't have heard anywhere else. All of it is made possibly by listener support. That's you. If you are listening, you are the listener support. And now, with Houston Public Media's loss of federal funding, we can't say it enough. Your gift to the Resiliency Fund means even more. Make your donation now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
If you've never given before, now is your moment to step up. Your first gift makes you a member of Houston Public Media, and it directly supports trusted NPR news, local programs like Houston Matters and Hello Houston, and essential community reporting. Stand with us and protect this service for everyone in Greater Houston. Join today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. or call 888-909-0887.
You don't have to give a huge amount to make a difference. Most of our members give $5 or $10 a month, and that's exactly how we keep this station running. Your support pays for the newsroom covering our city, the programming that you trust, that you listen to, and the everyday operations that make it all possible. It's simple. When enough of us give what we can, Houston Public Media stays strong. Make your gift right now, houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.